there and good evening. I'm connecting this evening with Youmna from Beirut to talk about the luxury business, and we'll be looking at the wholesale and direct to consumer sales. I thought that it's really important for us to concentrate on these aspects of the luxury business as we have been talking about more retail oriented aspects of the business. Yumna's experience in luxury is really long and would be able to highlight all of these details to us, and why are the luxury wholesale and direct to consumer aspects important, how they could be different from other retail practices, and what are their characteristics and specifics. So let me invite Youmna in, who's going to be joining me from Beirut, and who's going to introduce herself right away with the conversation. Hi, Youmna. Good evening. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Been a while.
It's been a while. I mean, we usually used to meet during our courses at Asouad,
Yes.
and life happened, so we are now virtually doing these conversations. But still, it's a good way to meet. Youmna, thank you. Exactly. Thank you so much for taking the time to meeting with me today. I will not talk any further. I want to leave the floor to you and start this conversation, first of all, by letting you introduce us to you and to your career in luxury.
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me also for at this live. I know that you're doing several very interesting talks every time, so it's a pleasure to be part of this very nice initiative.
Thank you.
Actually, what I started with fashion design at Asouad, and then I went to study fashion business in Paris at ESSEC, and luxury business as well between ESSEC and Bocconi. I did LVMH chair as well in Paris, and I worked for Christian Dior, for Paco Rabanne, and for Printemps department store before coming back to Beirut and working for Tony Wedded as a marketing director. And in parallel, I do teach at Asouad fashion and luxury marketing. So that's it mainly. And
mainly, but yet. First of all, the different, I mean, we had a couple of talks with people who have these like differences of experiences with working with luxury brands. However, they highlighted at a certain point different experiences between working for brands in Europe and coming back to Lebanon. Have you felt that there was a difference in types of management or management styles of luxury brands between Europe and Lebanon?
I felt actually that every company has a different style of management. Like even in Paris, when I was at Christian Dior or when I was at Printemps or at Paco Rabanne, it was completely different in terms of management. So already in specific companies, each one has its own culture, its own, like even the manager himself, he can really impact like the relationships, the way of work, etc. at work. The CEO, the designer, everybody has kind of, let's say, an impact on the culture and the way of working. So it's not only the country, but of course, Lebanon is different than France. Also, not only inside the company, but whenever you're working with outside suppliers, etc., it's also different from what you do in France. So in Lebanon, the shock I had was maybe in terms of deadlines, let's say. I was used to when I was in Paris that let's say they tell me this thing is going to be finished on Thursday. I know it's going to be finished on Thursday. In Lebanon, I learned that actually on Wednesday I need to start asking them, "Are you sure going to finish on Thursday?" And then ask them again. Thanks God, at Tony Word, it's not like that. We always respect deadlines, but whenever we're working with outside suppliers, it's a bit of a challenge. This is something that I felt was really different between Paris and Lebanon. But then, really, every company is different. It really depends, and also each person has somehow a responsibility on his way of working, of managing, of dealing with the other colleagues. It also impacts a lot relationships at work.
So it's always like an interpersonal and intrapersonal relationship with how you deal with the brand.
Yes.
However, for the past, I don't know if it's like 10 years already with Tony
Yes,
Wedded. Yes?
almost. Actually,
Oh,
it's like next month it will be 10 years.
so we have to celebrate that.
Yes.
Throughout these 10 years, I believe that, like any other thing, the brand has grown and your experience with the brand has grown, right? So how could you describe that long journey? What have you captured along the way?
Yes. So actually, yes, of course, the brand grew a lot. Actually, we went from like maybe we tripled the number of employees from when I started till now. Also, we were in a small, like a relatively small atelier. Now we have a 8-story building for the headquarters. We expanded to new markets like, for example, Paris. We have a showroom now on Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré. We have also several other markets which were maybe relatively small before, and now they're growing a lot, like the US market as well, etc. Somehow, yes, of course, it's a long journey and with a lot of different things, discoveries. Every year is different, every day is different as well. So a lot of things that happen. And at the same time, because of my experience with Asouad teaching, I get to all the time research about what's happening in the fashion and in the luxury world in general. So somehow also during these 10 years, I feel like what I learned maybe at ESSEC or at Bocconi maybe 15 years ago is not always relevant today. A lot of things have changed. So this teaching experience made me kind of open to so many things happening around the world because I had to every year like review my courses, see
And
what
update your knowledge, right?
exactly. I cannot stay like with what I learned before.
And this is really an important point, and we're going to be highlighting that in a few, especially the big changes that happened in the luxury industry the past couple of years.
Yes.
Today, Yumna, we're going to talk about the wholesale and direct-to-consumer aspect of the luxury business, and we thought when we were like preparing for this live that it's important to highlight these two aspects because most of the times we get the confusion that luxury is just like going to a flagship store or a beautiful boutique on the high street and buying something that already exists on the shelf. So today we're going to be looking at this beautiful aspect related, especially related to the direct to consumer in luxury. So if we can start the conversation by just differentiating both types of retail and luxury and why are they so different, and then we would talk about the specifics.
Yes. So if we take it, let's say, in general, whenever we talk about wholesale in luxury, it means that the brand is not directly in contact with the final customer. So somehow they are dealing, let's say, with different showrooms in different major markets. These showrooms are representing the collections, or maybe the brand is directly presenting the collection to the buyers. The buyers who are representing in the luxury business, it could be, let's say, department stores, it could be multi-brand stores, concept stores, or some boutiques, etc., who are coming to buy a specific assortment from the collection, and they are presenting it with different other brands also in their own market with their own target customer. So this is mainly, let's say, how we would describe wholesale in just 2 words in luxury. While for direct to customer or direct to consumer sales, it's a bit it's a bit broad. You have different things that you can put in this direct to consumer sales. But in general, it's about either the brand, let's say, catering directly to the final customers through, let's say, they have their own shop, or they have like a pop-up store, or they're selling online, or they're selling on WhatsApp, or they're selling directly at the house of the customer, or let's say at maybe in a hotel salon or whatever. They are kind of meeting the customer directly, but through, you have several ways to do it. So in general, the difference is that whenever I'm dealing directly with the customer, I can somehow know his preferences. I can really know this person and know what she likes, what she dislikes. I can know maybe what are things that could work best with her, etc. I really have a direct feedback from the customer. So this is one difference that I don't, maybe not always have in wholesale. Another difference would be also in terms of margins. Whenever I'm selling wholesale, I have to sell wholesale price, and then the boutique is going to do the markup to reach this price that the customers are selling, are paying for. While when I'm selling directly to the customer, I get to sell at full price to the customer. So somehow I have also higher margins. Another thing as well that is a difference is that for small brands, sometimes they don't have like the means to grow into different markets. It's hard to enter a new market, to do the advertising there, to promote the brand, to reach the customers, etc. While if I'm working through wholesale channels, I know that I just need to meet this buyer, this shop, and this shop already has existing clientele, so they already have the presence in this country or in the city. They already know the clients, etc. So it's easier to tap into new markets, especially when we're talking about brands which are not huge, so that they have the means to actually develop the brand in every other market. There's also a very important thing that is a difference, and that also somehow it's the reason why a lot of luxury brands prefer to go to direct to customer sale, is that they have more control for the price, let's say the discount, the merchandising, the experience. Everything can be controlled by the brand. While whenever I'm selling to a wholesaler, I don't really have, let's say, the possibility to put, like, it has to be sold at this price, the discount is maximum this, it has to be presented there. I can try to do it, but I'm never fully in control of this, you know. So it's for a luxury brand who wants to have some exclusivity, some like a very beautiful experience. This experience is not always possible through wholesale. So these are just in general the differences.
The different guidelines. So it's important to also talk about this aspect of preparation. The first thing that you highlighted. I mean, knowing the customer is a big deal in luxury business,
Yes.
right? And how do you get to know the customer? How do you research her? How you know about her preferences, or how can you anticipate what she might like or dislike? This is in the case of selling directly to the customer.
Yes. So first of all, whenever I am in touch with the customer, like physically, like I'm going to see the customer, if the customer is coming to my shop or whatever, then of course the salesperson or the person who is in touch, they already have kind of an idea of who is that customer. And then the responsibility of the salesperson is to actually give some feedbacks to the designers, to the marketing, etc., so they can actually develop a specific strategy based on the feedback that they get from the salespersons. Then, of course, one very important part also now is more and more important with the digital world is to actually study the numbers, study the data that we have available from, let's say, whenever we're looking at the analytics in our website, we can know who is going to this or that let's say, page, or what is the age range, the countries, etc., of the people who are coming to visit, what are their behaviors, etc. I can kind of also understand from the behaviors of the customers, let's say on my website, what are they searching for, what do they love, what do they want more of, why do they, for example, stop the experience, on which page they stop, so maybe I need to improve that specific page or whatever. And then also another part is something that is being developed a lot, especially by big brands, because somehow they have the technology and it's easier for them to do it, is what we call the clienteling, which is that they are actually studying the, let's say, the previous purchases, what they do usually, etc. And they are empowering the salesperson to contact them to through, it can be an app on their phone or whatever. They can actually contact them specifically for a new product launch that they know it's there, it would be interesting for them, that they know that usually they buy these type of products, or they are going to contact them for this in specific, etc. So somehow there are a lot of ways to know about the clients. It can be something purely like clicky by just observing what's happening, or by actually analyzing some data. The key here is to see how am I going to use those data to actually improve the product, or to improve the customer relationship, or to kind of encourage more sales or whatever.
And here you're looking at a new tool that luxury brands used to be afraid of at the beginning, or maybe 10 years or 15 years back, which is like going online, or being very digitally connected. However, today we're talking about the importance of all of this data to anticipate some behavior, or to provide like personalized services to our consumers. And not only consumers are empowering their behavior online and their relationship with brands, but brands also are being able to study, as you said, all of this consumer behavior to provide personalized offerings or services, maybe. And do you think today that brands can also develop some kinds of capsule collections related to consumers who specifically seek styles or products respective to their needs, environments, or?
Do you mean capsule collections for specific customers, or?
Yes.
Yes, of course, of course. Like now, we see that everything is evolving in a way. Like as you were saying, for everything related to the digital, before it was something that luxury brands were afraid of, and they were maybe also very slow to actually embrace, yes, and adopt these new technologies. But now they see from one side that these new technologies have huge opportunities. And also from another side, they see that they have no choice. Actually, it's how the world is going, so they have to they have to be ahead of this. So thanks to thanks to these information that they now have, yes, of course they can identify that maybe this is what everybody is requesting. So why not do a capsule collection related to this, or that market is requesting especially this type of product. So why not actually create a capsule collection for that specific market, because I know that they will appreciate this. Or and now with like fashion weeks being a bit
Virtual.
Yes, virtual, but also like not very specific. Like we don't have anymore this pressure that I need to do 2 collections,
Yes.
2 fashion shows a year or whatever. So brands, they can adapt also, and let's say these capsule collections, present them at the right time when they know that their customers are going to actually need these things, and they can buy them directly instead of doing it at the time when the customers are looking to something else or whatever. So yes, of course, they can adapt a lot thanks to these new technologies.
Right. And moreover, you highlighted that direct to consumer sales could like take place in the showroom when the customer comes to the brand directly. And in the same way, you can go to meet the brand either in her place or in a hotel. Can you describe a little bit how these meetings take place, or how they happen?
Yes. So there are a lot of different scenarios. So it's not like
One
it depends.
specific, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes it could be like the brand is bringing, let's say, a new collection, and they are presenting it at a very high-profile salon in a five-star hotel, and you have clients coming by appointment and viewing the collection. Sometimes you have a specific client who is already, let's say, a very high profile client of the house, and she is requesting a private appointment at her let's say palace or whatever, and she wants to have the collection viewing like herself alone, or her and her family, or with her friends or whatever. Sometimes it could be part of for example, a charity dinner, and they are inviting a designer to present a collection, and it's for the guests of this charity or gala dinner. You have so many different ways actually of doing it. It really depends. It depends also some countries they are more like in culturally they are more used to, let's say, gala dinners and charity dinners. Let's say for example the US. Others they prefer to have those more private moments only with a few people. For example, in the Arab countries, it really depends.
But and at the same time, we see how the brand could be very flexible, actually, in meeting with these customers respective to their needs. Very interesting.
Yes.
And we also talked about so this idea of meeting in a hotel, or sometimes doing some kind of trunk shows, if we can call them, in luxury, right?
We could call them trunk shows, not necessarily, but it could be. And sometimes it can be also trunk shows being done at boutiques as well, let's say, or at department stores. But
Mm-hmm.
then it is not really direct to customer, because it's through the department store or through the boutique. But the advantage that the customers have when they're coming for the trunk show is that they get to meet people from the house usually, or the
Okay.
so somehow they feel this exclusive experience. We get all of the feedback from the customers, so it's a bit merging the two. Yeah.
And you've mentioned a little bit this new tool of getting in touch also with customers through like pop-up stores or pop-up events. Have
Yes,
you done any kind of these events at Tony Bared, or you haven't experienced it yet?
pop-up stores, not yet. No, we not.
Okay.
No, no.
And do you believe that with these new retail formats, Yumna, you would be also injecting some kind of energy to the brand, or a new way of getting closer to customers? Is the brand normally open to these things, or do you believe that you are the kind of brand that prefers to take the time to study its steps before venturing into new retail formats?
Yes, so actually, I really believe that pop-up stores are a very interesting opportunity. Usually, whenever we let's say have a certain product that is being exclusively sold online, it's interesting for people to kind of be able to experience it, to touch it, to feel it, etc. So sometimes a pop-up store would be an amazing opportunity for people to actually see this product, try it or whatever, and if chosen carefully, let's say the location, the city, the moment, etc., it can create a very good impact. So somehow it's a very good idea. From our side, we never really felt the need to do it for the moment, but I'm sure that for a lot of brands, it's a great opportunity to have this like experience for a short period of time without the hassle of having a huge, let's say, expense of an annual rental and so many different things that are related to having retail stores. Don't have this, but we have the impact of something that is ephemeral, that is interesting, that is exciting, etc., that creates some more interest in the brand. And now we see that more and more with the rise of the digital, it's a consider that there is something else as well in parallel, which is, let's say, the omni-channel or the phygital or whatever, which is this mix of digital and physical at the same time. And pop-up stores offers this opportunity actually to mix these two. And this will eventually create more impact. It will allow the brand to really tell a story from A to Z, not only online, but the story that is continuing also physically.
Okay, thank you. And we attended or to this idea of getting closer to customers in different ways. We have seen last year that many brands started contacting their customers or doing some sort of social selling. If the store is closed or the boutique is closed, you could have the opportunity to contact a sales assistant or a brand rep to virtually meet with them and maybe get a viewing of the collection. Have you done this sort of meeting with clients lately?
Yes, of course, we always do this. It's something very important. Yes, definitely. We do it maybe every day, you know, and I think that every brand should do it. And I know that also a lot of brands, they are doing it. Let's say when you talk about huge brands, let's say like Gucci, for example, they had so many stores closed. They couldn't afford to just have the stores closed and the salespersons at home and not do anything. Like, it would be a huge loss for the company. So they were using these apps like clienteling apps that were empowering the salespersons to know exactly who to contact for which products, etc. And they kept in touch with the customers. I know that they were doing things like, I don't know, Zoom meetings with some of their clients, presenting the collection in store while they were their clients were like, I don't know, like watching and asking questions, etc. And I know that it worked because people, they needed, like they wanted to feel like they're going shopping, but they couldn't. So somehow there was this need, and there was this like desire to actually purchase something. And the brands who knew how to actually catch this and do it in an elegant way, in a nice way, etc., it was a very good opportunity. So somehow in today's world, we need to adapt. We cannot say like, what we used to do 2 years ago is not working, so we're just going to wait until the world comes back to normal. No, we have to somehow find solutions and find solutions very quickly. And so we are doing it, and I know that a lot of other people, yes, are doing it as well.
So we wanted to attend to this situation in more details, and we wanted to talk about what happened during and after the pandemic. I mean, it was a shock for everyone, every retailer at any level, whether high end or low end. Some brands took it as the end of the world, and it was a negative thing. Some other brands saw it as an opportunity. So where did you stand vis-a-vis the pandemic, and how did you manage to get out of this situation and turn it to a solution?
From my side, yes, I think that I always see things as opportunities. Like, we can never say that the crisis is the end of the world, because somehow the world went to so many other crises, and it was not ended, you know, yet. So somehow we need to always see it as an opportunity. And the key is here to think like, of course, we went through a phase when very few people were buying, and I think like when the lockdown started, people were a bit like traumatized. They were waiting. A lot of events were cancelled, etc. So somehow there was this phase where we could feel like it's the end of the world, while it was not. But then you notice that there are so many solutions. There are things are starting to get better, especially now with the vaccine, with somehow people needing to go back to like something a bit more like similar to normal. So we're feeling like now things are getting like better again. But the key is that whenever there is this crisis, whenever there is a problem, to think differently. Like, the solutions that were possible before are not possible anymore. People's lives have changed. Like, it's they are working from homes. They are not going maybe to the city centers anymore as much as before. they are not maybe attending so many events or whatever. A lot of things change. So somehow the retail, the brands, they need to adapt to this new reality. Whether it is from how to contact their clients, what to offer as products, what to offer also maybe as experiences, how to maybe communicate about the brand not only as for sale but also for awareness or whatever. So there are a lot of things that needs to be done in terms of prices to eventually become stronger than before.
And do you believe, I mean, this is a general question, but do you believe that the pandemic pushed luxury brands to think differently and has made them less stuck up? Sometimes we used to get the feeling that luxury brands were always living in their own little bubble. Do you believe that the pandemic made them shook up their practices and made them rethink the ways they want to manage their brands?
Yes, of course, of course. Yeah, and especially when we see, for example, the way the collections were presented. It was the same format. It started like maybe in the late 19th century with the fashion shows and then with the fashion weeks, etc. And it stayed until now. You felt like nothing changed, you know, for like 120 years. There were like small changes, but nobody was really I don't know. Um, Challenging this. They were trying to challenge it a little bit. A few brands doing something different, but somehow the change was kind of slow, you know. So what happened now? It really showed things
Yes.
a lot. Brands out of a sudden they had to find alternatives to fashion shows, and somehow it became more creative because you want to make an impact. You cannot do a fashion show, so you need to somehow do a very interesting video or a very interesting happening or something completely virtually but which is super out of the box. So brands somehow they needed to change the way they present their collection. So this is something that changed a lot, but also the way they sell, they needed to change because they needed to adapt to this reality. As we were saying before, this online platforms that were not that much like, I don't know, developed in for luxury brands. Now, out of a sudden, they had to actually make huge efforts to create immersive, very interesting experiences online as well. Um, so yes, of course, when we see that there is a huge change in people's lives, brands they need to adapt. The retail needs to adapt to this new reality.
Yes. Perfect. I mean, the way you put it, just I was thinking about it, and it's really interesting how fast the change was and the results were. Just because we want to concentrate today on these two aspects of luxury, we will go back a little bit to the wholesale aspect and to the idea of control in wholesale. So we were saying at the beginning that with wholesale, the brand could have the opportunity to open up to new and different markets where it's not present and would like to or sees a potential. And we talked a little bit about the wholesalers' control. But before going to that, a little idea, how do you choose the person who's going to represent you in that specific area or country?
Yes. So first of all, it's very important to think about how the brand will be presented in this specific area. So whenever we would choose, let's say, a department store or retailer or whatever, we're going to see the location, how it is, the store. Does it tell a story somehow? Because sometimes the boutiques or the department stores, they have a strong identity already. Is this identity, let's say, relevant to what we want to what we want to convey also as a brand? Who are the other brands represented in the store? So are they somehow in the same spirit? So will customers, when they see our brand next to other brands, is it going to be like, reflective of the positioning that we want to give to our brand? There is also a need to make sure that the boutique or the department store is ready to invest a certain amount to have a good representation of the brand. So not only buying one or two products, but really having a good representation. It's important also to make sure that the department store or the boutique is really serious. They have a good history in terms of, let's say, payments, in terms of how do they usually deal with the brands, do they respect the agreements, etc. So somehow this is something that could be helpful as well whenever working with a showroom, because they already know the history of these boutiques. Are they really serious? Are they the right contacts to have, etc. And there are so many things to take, of course, into consideration before choosing. And once we choose also, let's say, this or that partner, there is also all this work with the partner to make sure that everything is going in the right direction. Sometimes also it needs to visit online in this specific market for these type of products. So they would also make recommendations for the buyers, like why not have these stocked at your store. So it is something that is like both ways. They both the buyer and the salesperson, they need to communicate together and find what would be the ideal assortment for the store.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Youmna. I believe that we have really elaborated both types, selling wholesale or selling directly to consumer, and the differences between each and how it characterizes the brand and the brand's features. Is there anything else that you would like to add to the conversation and that we haven't talked about, Youmna?
Other things. Yes, so we were saying a little bit like during the pandemic, we saw a lot of things changing. So somehow for the brands, a lot of things were changing, but also for the retailers and the department stores, etc. Also, a lot of things were changing. So somehow we're seeing that there is let's say, an evolution of how things are happening, and which is maybe going to be here to stay. So one example is that before, the department stores had a lot of power over brands. They could impose, like, we want to have this type of deliveries, maybe we want to have the brand offers their products without them paying for them. They wanted exclusivity for a lot of styles or whatever. They had a relationship was where the department store had the power and the brand was trying to follow, etc. Now, with the department stores closing for a long period of time, and a lot of times also their sales are related to people who are traveling to these cities and doing shopping. So somehow also they had much lower sales, etc. The brands somehow they kind of noticed that there are no more interest in working with those department stores in the same, let's
Way
say,
that they used to.
yes, exactly. So we saw like somehow a difference in terms of
Tone, in difference of tone, yes,
yeah,
between the
maybe. Maybe, but somehow yes. So those department stores or those stores, they need to somehow now reinvent themselves. They
Mhm.
are not no longer just like stocking brands. Maybe they need to create experiences to attract local customers to their stores. Maybe they have to create some new kinds of partnerships with brands so that they are actually creating more value for both the brand and the department store. Um, we are seeing that a lot of things are happening thanks to the, let's say, the pandemic, that are actually maybe more fair for brands. This is, yeah, so this is something that is actually, I think we feel like there is a big change after the pandemic. Yeah.
And Yumna, I wanted to ask, there's something that you mentioned earlier, and I think is important to talk about. After the pandemic, brands also communicated more on social media or used their digital presence. So how important is today storytelling on social media and other social presences, and how important is the investment of brands in this idea of storytelling to create a sense of differentiation.
It's super, super important actually. And as we're seeing this rise of direct to customer sale and this rise of online communication, etc., it's becoming more and more important. So brands are not selling anymore a product, they are selling a story, they are selling an experience, they are selling a certain concept, a certain lifestyle or whatever. It's not anymore related to just one product. So and what they're trying to do now with this idea of omni-channel or phygital or whatever, that is like mixing the digital and the physical interaction, is that they are trying to create stories and then you can directly buy the story. So let's say you are browsing on Instagram and you can directly buy the specific product that you saw on Instagram just by tapping on it, or you're watching a show and you can directly buy this product from the show, or you're reading a certain, I don't know, let's say a story, and then you have these pictures and you love them, you can directly have the link to buy them. So you're catching the people in this moment of inspiration that they have it, like now I want to buy the product, and you can directly buy it. This is something that was not possible before. Like before, you had to maybe you're reading about a story in the magazine, or you're reading about it in I don't know, let's say on the website, but then you have to make a huge effort to find it at the department store, and maybe along the way you forget about it and you just move to something else. Here, what they're trying to do with this idea of like creating immersive experiences online, having really beautiful online experiences, etc., is that you can directly buy. When you're reading the story, you can directly buy like this concept or this idea that you love.
I don't know if Tavi is still with us and listening to this. Tavi had been one of my guests on previous live with Ghalia, and he also explained about the importance of not only omni-channel commerce, but today we're calling it like unified commerce. It's really catching the customer, not only catching it for the sake of selling, however, providing him with the ultimate facilitation of grabbing the product whenever, wherever, and receiving it whenever, wherever. So it's, thank you for highlighting it and highlighting it in the luxury setting. In settings when we used where and when we used to think that customers are less prone to being like digitally savvy and tech, and we see the way you put it, how important it is today. So hi Tavi, thank you and thank you for highlighting it, Youmna.
Yes,
So
I think that we have so many opportunities with the new technology. So we need to catch these opportunities to really make the best out of these opportunities and to create something which is also very human. Like we're not using the technology just for the sake of using technology, but the actual technology that can help us to create a better experience, or that can help us to create inspirational content, or they can help us to get in touch with the customer in a personalized way. So why not use these and make the best out of it?
Tavi, I will be sharing your contacts with Youmna. So Youmna, this idea of also contacts invites us to rethink connections with brands that are becoming again very personal and very emotional. And I believe that this idea of forcing sales is so passé, you know, that we are now moving to this era of getting in touch, understanding, and just putting value into the sales instead of just imposing a product and making our customers believe that they are inferior in the sale rather than being the co-creators and the value.
Yes.
And it's really important. Wow, I'm inspired. I'm inspired. And Youmna, what are like future plans that you're looking at today at Tony Warid? Are there new projects that you are looking at, new ways that you are developing, or are there any things that you want to share with us related to new projects?
Oh, there are a lot of new projects, but still not
Not to be revealed.
finished.
Okay. So we'll be looking hopefully forward to all of the news that you are going to be sharing with
Yes.
us. Thank you so much, Youmna. Thank you for this beautiful conversation and for giving us the time and explaining all of this. And hopefully we get to meet soon, either in Paris, Beirut, or somewhere in the world, right?
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And just for those who followed since the beginning or skipped the beginning, I will be sharing this talk directly on IGTV and later on YouTube, so you can have access to the entire conversation very soon. Thank you so much for joining in and have a nice evening. Thank you,
You
Youmna.
too. Bye bye.
Ciao, bye.